The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on it. He missed the complete fit. He's crazy.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Welcome to Lime Rock Park, home of Round 4 in the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, and you're watching it live on the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm your host, Joe Peak. With me in the booth today are Ayrton Ellis and Bill Zahn. Our cameras have been provided by Doug Beard, and directing them today is Kevin Brown. Well, guys, this little cove in the hills of Connecticut is abuzz once again with the sounds of virtual engines. To tell us a little bit more about this diminutive course, let's go to Ayrton.
Thanks, Joe. As we know, this is one of the shortest courses in the season for this series. It's only 1.5 miles long. It has 7 corners, only one left-hander out of them. So this is going to be very hard on the left tires of a lot of these cars. And it's going to be a 2-hour race, so a very long race as well.
And then we also have to worry about the championship as well in this series, which is starting to take shape now that we are here in round 4. What is the GS side starting to look like on that, Ayrton?
Well, after 3 races, we have Patrick Bieri in first place with 116 points. 19 points back is Elliot Huffman. Then in third is Kimmo Suominen, who has missed 1 race, so he is still up there in pace. Nicholas Bailey is in 4th place, 40 points back, and Jason Breifogel is in 5th place, 46 points back.
Meanwhile, Bill, in ST, it's looking pretty competitive with a new name at the top compared to previous seasons here.
It's a name that a lot of iRacers are familiar with, is Amjad Yaman from Texas. He's leading the pack. Now, it's early in the season and there's going to be drop races, so these things are going to shuffle around a little bit. But he's leading. He's ahead of a well-known driver, James Stevenson, in 2nd. Bill Randleman in 3rd, Stefan Overgaard doing very well in 4th, and George Britton in 5th place. Now, some other names you might want to look out for is Yao Freitas is back in 6th, and Yuri Yanis. They're both here today. In fact, Yanis is on the pole for his class. And well down the field is Sergio Mora. He's had some bad luck this season. Look for him to move up the standings, certainly when drop races start to take effect.
Absolutely. Now we're currently watching the qualifying going down as Bill mentioned, the ST cars have finished theirs, but we're going to get to that in just a moment. Before we do, we are going to hop on board one of the Mustangs in a pre-recorded lap and show you what it's like on board as we travel around this circuit. All right, let's take a lap around Lime Rock Park in the Mustang of Kevin Brown. Coming down the front straightaway, turn 1 is going to be your best opportunity for a pass here. Really the only hard braking zone around this course. Now, 1 and 2 is basically the same corner, but around 2 you're going to hit this late apex here, use the banking to your advantage, and get the car to the right as soon as you can for the only left-hander on the course. This is another late apex, and again, use the banking. Keep the car to the left and straighten out turn 4 as much as you can. You see Kevin got a little bit of the curb. And then straighten out the no-name straight here. Now coming up to 5, the uphill. The key to this corner is to get the car settled soon, because as you come over this crest, you don't want to be loading the left-hand tires or you might spin or have to lift and lose speed. 6 is pretty straightforward. Don't get too over-ambitious with the exit because those tire barriers come up pretty quick. And keep it to the left side for the downhill. Now there's going to be a groove on the right side. You want to tuck your tires right into that. Got to be very precise with this corner if you want a good lap. Hopefully coming on this front straightaway, you'll have a chance to get by someone of the other class or let them by. And that's a lap around Lime Rock Park. That should give you an idea of just how frantic it's going to be around this course with a lot of corners and many short straightaways, and both classes. I mean, we've got 36 cars that are going to be on track when the green falls here, so these guys are going to have their hands full. As we watch Kimmo Suominen work on his laps around in qualifying, we do have the ST cars finished up. And Bill, what are the first 10 looking like over there?
Well, on pole is Yuri Yanis, and now he beat James Stevenson by, well, let me check my decimal points here. That was going to be 7/1000ths of a second for the pole position. Second row is Amjad Yaman and Yao Freitas. The third row is made up by Sergio Mora and Thomas Torp. In the fourth row on the inside is Richard Losper, and outside of him is Stefan Overgaard. Arthur Chan makes the inside of the fifth row with Russell Clausen on the outside. Sixth row is Hang Ho Tao and Matthew Reinhold. And the final row is going to be made up by David Wammen and Tom Eckline. Back to you, Joe.
And before we read off the GS, we're going to let them get a few more laps in because things could shuffle around still. In fact, it's been very close up at the top in both classes as Darius Belowski and Patrick Bieri and Kimo Suominen have been swapping positions up at the top there. All those guys have been very fast, especially Patrick and Kimo, both race winners in this series, and very much guys that you should look out for. A few other things to talk about, though. We mentioned, Ayrton, the traffic around here. Now, we've known in the past, because we've been broadcasting this series for about 2 seasons now, so we've seen the kind of chaos that goes on around here with, the endurance racing with 2 different classes, but never with this many cars. So, I mean, what are you expecting today?
Well, as we have seen from previous seasons, there is a lot of trouble between mixed class racing on this track. The MX-5s and Mustangs are very close in speed around here, only about 2 seconds between them. So a lot of ST drivers will not be wanting to let GS drivers by because they have better pace through the corners and there's not much straights on this course. It really just got the front stretch for these GS cars to go past. So it's definitely going to be difficult between mixed class driving, and we do have a lot of Mustangs on the field today as well, 22 drivers, so that's going to cause a lot of traffic.
And Bill, one of the things that just kind of compounds it is the passing zones are at a premium around here. Turn 1 seems to be really the only good place to try and make something happen.
Well, as a card-carrying member of Backmarkers United, there's little that I can speak expertly on when I'm broadcasting, but I can talk to how to get out of the way if you're a backmarker here at this track. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it's that hard because there's not a series of technical sections. It's a corner, and then there's always a place to lift afterwards. You can lift on the no-name straight, you can lift on the main straight, you can lift after turn, coming down to the last turn. What I think the problem is when a lapped car lets a leader go by, it's the car behind that gets greedy and wants to follow him through. If I'm a back marker, I need that apex, so I will let you by, but I want the apex. Where we might see trouble is where the lapped car is getting out of the way, and then the car behind him, he's going to let one by, and the second car is going to come in, and the lap car is not going to be able to get to the apex. He's going to go wide. He's going to end up the wall. He's going to bounce back across the track, and I think that's where you might see some problems.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that there will be guys battling, and they won't want to have to lift on that straightaway at times, so that's going to make it even trickier. Now, Ayrton, as we watch these Mustangs, I understand that the tires could come into play with these cars, especially with a 2-hour race, and we anticipate, I understand, 2 stops. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it will come into play with tires, especially since this track consists mostly of right-hand turns. So I'm interested to see if some of these drivers might come in to do a 2-tire stop strategy to just take those left tires, since those are really worked hard on a lot of these corners. There are a lot of fast corners that really burn those out. So we haven't seen much of that in previous seasons, but who knows? It might come with these more recent builds.
And I just want to jump in. Don't you think, guys, that the tire wear is going to be more significant on the Mustangs than the Mazdas? And in fact, as the race runs on, you may see that speed difference even come down farther on longer runs.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's very slim, the gap right now. We look at the pole for the ST cars. Jared Janis sitting in a 1 minute .154, and currently sitting at the bottom of the GS cars is John Ellers with a 59.927. So it's a little over a tenth of a second between first in the slower class and slowest in the faster class. So guys are going to have to be watching out for each other as that crossover starts to happen, and in general, just over the course of the race, we could be seeing some of the GS cars have to maybe give it up if they've got some battling ST leaders in the way there.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we have seen that in previous seasons, where the slower GS cars will get mixed up, and not just Lime Rock, but also on other tracks when it comes to restarts with those mixed class starts. So it should definitely be an interesting race with these mixed class drivers. And I think really the drivers that, especially in the ST class in the front, are going to have something to worry about there.
And speaking of worrying about things, there are also cautions in this series if you are new to this series. So they are marshal controlled. They will be watching out for accidents. So that will come into play with the strategy. Now, I remember there was a bit of talk from some of the drivers about possibly doing it in a one-stopper if there's enough caution. I think we saw that in the last round in Laguna Seca, if I remember right, Ayrton.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, with there's definitely a lot of different pit strategies going on. There's some drivers who took extra pit stops during some of the cautions, but I think there were a couple that managed to do it just on one stop. So that can come into play, especially on a short track like this. We do have a lot of laps to go, so I think some drivers will be thinking more of tire wear rather than fuel, since this is going to be a lot of fast corners around here.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of a crazy thought that if it stays green, which would be a bit of a tall order in these tight confines, if it stays green, we're going to be seeing in the realm of 120 laps around this circuit. A long time and a lot of corners to be paying attention. Now, the time is up on qualifying. They are allowed to complete this hot lap. We're going to let things run out so that nobody confuses us as far as who gets the pole. But it is looking fairly close still up at the top as I let this clock tick down and guys finish up around the few corners around here to try and get whatever positions they can before the checkered flag falls here. So with and now it looks to be up. So they're going to start gridding very soon here. Yes, there they go now. So now we have a consolidated grid for the GS class, Ayrton. So what are the top 10 looking like?
Well, different from practice results, with Kimmo Suominen was leading practice, but Darius Belowski managed to get first in qualifying, followed by Patrick Pieri. Kimmo Suominen ended up in third, then German Fanador in fourth, Jason Freifogel in fifth, Hanno Paces in sixth, Wayne Bork in seventh, Elliot Huffman in eighth, Nicholas Bailey in 9th, and Sean Vandergriff in 10th.
Meanwhile, in 11th, it's Duljan Boldrin. Then 12th is Jason Lundy. 13th is Brendan McIntyre. 14th is held down by Matthew Oak. 15th is Arthur Hermont. 16th is Alexis Molina. Then Jeff Jacobs is in 17th. James Alex Brown is in 18th. Kevin Cook, 19th. Mike Main is 20th. 21st is Philip Carpenter. And finally, John Ellers brings up the back in 22nd. That is 36 cars, and we have a 37th, which doesn't seem to be taking the grid, and that is Richie Bryan. I believe he is not going to race today, it looks like. So now we have cars sitting on the front straight behind the pace car waiting to do the pace lap. They will be separating the classes to do separate starts around this. Ayrton, I have to ask, with all the unpredictability of today, who is your call?
I think I'm going to go with Darius Belowski for this one. I was watching him during practice, and he seemed to be very consistent as well as fast, while I was also looking at Kimmo, and he seemed to have a little less consistency. So I think Belowski, especially since he's starting on pole, will have a good chance of this race.
And Bill, I know there's a few names you're probably going to be a little bit partial to, but who do you think has it in the bag today?
No, in all honesty, I'm going to go way down to the third row. Inside of the third row with Sergio Mora. I think his number is going to come up this time. He doesn't have this pace, but I think he has the expertise, and I think it's time for luck to fall his way.
We certainly hope so. We watched in the first round, if you're new to this series, where Sergio Mora came less than half a lap from winning the 2.4 hours of Daytona. Then he was not able to make it into the race at Sebring. And then, unfortunately, black flag problems at Laguna Seca kept him from staying up at the front and taking a potential win there. So, though he may be down on pace, I'm sure that Portuguese driver is going to be extremely hungry to try and get himself a win in this series, as he's shown the pace and he's shown the determination. He just has to put it all together. Might be a bit of a tall order today with all the stuff that's going to be going on around these guys. Now we watch the pace car lead them down the no-name straight, this little squiggly bit that isn't quite a straightaway that leads towards the uphill bend. This is going to be another place to watch out for with these Mustangs. There were drivers talking about in practice how it's very tricky today with the limited grip that they have. Just look at how it crests there up at the top, right when you have all the weight on the left side of the cars. So those guys could be having a few problems. We might see a few cautions spur from cars spinning out and hitting the wall after taking that corner. Now we are heading towards the downhill. Another very fast corner, but the pace car is going to take them away as he is going to head into the pits very soon now. Darius Malowski is going to lead them to the line with Patrick Bieri on the outside there. Waiting for that pace car to duck in. There he goes.
Green, green, green.
There goes the green flag as Darius now accelerates away, and it's not a very good one as Patrick is already pulling up alongside him, but it's going to be very difficult for him to try and get by around the outside unless he really outbrakes him, and it's going to be very aggressive if he does so. He tries to hold on, but it's not quite enough, and he slots in the line. What does the ST start looking like, Bill?
They're just coming to the to the green flag right now. Now they wanted to leave a lot of space so that they wouldn't run up on the back of the Mustangs, and it's Giannis on the inside in that red, white, and black Blackhawks car, Chicago Blackhawks car, and the outside is James Stevenson, and it looks like Giannis is going to take the lead. And there goes Amjad Yaman, the doctor from Texas, moving into second place.
Very aggressive move by Amjad, but it was very opportunistic. It's not over yet, though, as Stevenson comes back with that left-hander, but now he's going to be on the outside as they take turn 4 onto the no-name straight, and they're still side-by-side, Bill. Obviously not willing to give up this early on, even.
I think they got to give up before they come to the top of the hill because you just don't want to go too wide coming up on this right-hander.
And they're going to try. They're still side by side, and they managed to do it. This is giving Jared Janis just the advantage he needs. And now look at this. Freitas was trying to get into it, but he was balked by both cars. There was just no place to go. Now Amjad Yaman has that bit of space. He's still trying to defend on the inside, and he slots in the line. Ooh, just about chops off Stevenson, but they make it work. These guys are very aggressive for the start of a 2-hour race around LRP.
Oh, and they got a long way to go. They got to stop doing that.
And Freitas is looking on the inside of Stevenson, so Stevenson has gone from second all the way to fourth, and he's got to give up the ghost. He's got Mora behind him. Now he's finally able to slot into line. Stevenson has lost 2 spots, but I think once traffic comes into play, I'm sure he's going to get opportunities down the line.
Well, I'm not sure if that's a matter of pace or he's just thinking, we don't need to do this right away. He knows he has this to get back up front, so he's going to live to fight another lap.
Meanwhile, let's go over to GS to see how things are over there. Darius is still leading the way with Patrick behind him. Kimo Swamanen, who we thought would possibly have the pole, is still sitting in third, Ayrton, and it looks like even though he's very close, he's kind of waiting patiently at the moment.
Yeah, there hasn't been much action in the GS class. Most people have stick to their qualifying position, so especially with Kimo, he has been really close to Patrick Bieri, and Bilowski in first has gotten a little bit of a lead, but they keep on stretching out and closing back together. But these top 3 already have about second lead over German and Fanador, so these guys are already pulling away, showing off their pace.
Now, I find it interesting that Fanador is up in fourth because you were talking about him a little bit earlier before the broadcast, Ayrton, how you thought that he wasn't up or as fast as he used to be, but it seems like he's showing some pace here today.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to be struggling either. He has a nice little gap ahead of Jason Breifogel in 5th as well, so he's definitely showing some good pace at the moment.
As he dips 2 wheels off into the dirt, which is rather common here, although he'll have to watch out because the incident points do count towards potential bonus points or even a penalty point if they have too many incident points. So guys will have to try and keep it clean, which might be tough around here. These top 3 are just kind of holding station right now, so please break in if something happens between them, Aaron. Let's go back to that ST field and see what it's looking like, Bill. And it looks like Jared Janis is starting to walk away.
Yeah, why don't we set the table here, Rook? Giannis has a nice lead he's picked up from the battle that was going on. Back in second place is Amjad Yaman. Now he's closely followed there in that black and yellow car by Yao Freitas. Right behind him is James Stevenson, and in 5th place is Sergio Mora. So those guys are running 2, 3, 4, and 5 nose to tail. A little bit farther back in 6th place is Richard Losper. Now he got around Thomas Torp in the couple corners back. Followed behind them is Russell Clausen and rounding out the top is Hang Ho Tao. Other than that, let's give a shout out to all these drivers for a clean lap for both classes on the first lap here.
Yeah, I mean, it was some tense moments over in ST, but everyone seemed to manage to get through it pretty well. Now, I see Thomas Torp is actually trying to hunt down Richard, who is currently behind, sitting there in, where is Thomas? Actually, he's sitting in 7th place. But I'm very interested to see what Richard can do today, because he's a guy who races regularly in the GT Cup in the regular iRacing series, and he has just been on fire there, winning lots and lots of races. So he's got the speed in this MX-5. We've seen him be able to be competitive, but in this series, he hasn't gotten a win yet. He's in the top 6, looking at possibly trying to get top 5, and we understand that there's something going on with Freitas, and it looks like he's moved up into 2nd, Bill.
Yeah, now that doesn't surprise me. Amjad Yaman, I know Freitas, and I'll be honest, I know Freitas and Yaman from the Mazda World Tour Series, where I'm very familiar with him, and Freitas has the pace. Now, to be honest with you, he probably has the pace over Giannis as well, so we're going to see. I'll keep an eye and see if Freitas can run him down. To go back to, before we go back up to the Mustangs, to go back to the Losper-Torp battle, Torp is in that, he's driving that kind of gray or frosted silver, depending how poetic you want to be, car. Torp's a bit of an underachiever. I think he has more speed than his results show. So I'm going to make a point to keep an eye on him and see how he does throughout this race.
Yeah, he's tried in this series as well, in the Conti series, to try and get some results, but he's had speed, just doesn't seem to be able to put it together and get it all the way to the finish in those top spots. Although he's had potential to do so in the past, maybe he can do it today. It's still early days. We're only about 9 minutes into the race at this point. So these guys still have, or I'm sorry, 7 minutes into the race at this point. So they've got a ways to go, and there's still pit strategy to worry about. And speaking of that, and we mentioned Amjad Yaman, I'm wondering, we've seen him win here in that MX-5 World Tour. I'm wondering if he could pull similar moves today and try to outthink some of these guys up to the front like he did at Daytona.
Yeah, I really have to take a sip of water here and remember that I'm so used to calling shorter 45 minutes races. I need to just relax. This is a long haul for these guys, so I'm going to slow down my pace. They need to slow down their pace. We're here for a while, aren't we, Joe?
We are. I don't think they're slowing down at all, though. Although everybody is really doing a good job of just settling into their positions, starting to get a rhythm, Ayrton, it seems, at least over here on the ST side. On the GS, is it still steady as she goes over there as well?
Yeah, the GS cars are starting to form into groups, and they're actually already catching up onto ST traffic. Darius Pulaski's right behind the driver of David Whammond in the MX-5. But yeah, these guys are already being put into groups. We still have the top 3 guys, but behind them, German Fanador has been caught by Jason Breifogel and Wayne Bork as well. And there's kind of a little stretched out train there as well. There has been a little battle between Sean Vandergriff and Nicholas Bailey, but they're still fairly single file and staying pretty clean at the moment.
And we're watching Patrick Bieri right now as he comes up the uphill with a couple wheels in the dirt, it looks like, manages to keep it going. Another thing you got to watch out for up on that uphill. So and we've got a car in the wall somewhere, and I'm hearing the marshals chatter. I don't see a caution yet, so it looks like
Tom Eckline.
Let's see if we can get a replay of that and see what exactly happened to him here. Now we've got the replay up, and that was down the downhill. We've got to hop back a little bit, and it looks like that was coming out of 6. As we can see him sideways, we're back in just a little bit farther up, and now we can see him coming up towards 6, which is a very fast corner, and there's not a lot of runoff, and he gets a little bit sideways and just bangs it into that inside wall. Thankfully, I'm not sure who that was that went by him, but that other car avoided him. So it looks like we're going to continue on to green, and Eckline is just now getting in the pits, just crawling in there. Unfortunate for him, but good to see at least we're going to get some green flag racing after a bit of a caution fest, one round to go.
Joe, if I can pipe in here, for a purpose-built road course like Lime Rock Park is, it's not very forgiving. If you make a mistake here, the walls are really close on a lot of these corners. Unlike it's more like a street course almost, where the walls are so close than a normal purpose-built road course where there's always runoffs at the end of the corners. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I hope iRacing soon gets the updated version scanned, because there have been some chicanes and a bit of runoff in a couple places that have been added. So this version is actually not quite up to date at the moment. Meanwhile, Kimo Swamin and Ayrton has made up a position, it looks like.
Yeah, I think that checkup from Tom Eckline, Patrick Bury, a little off guard. He slowed down in the final corner and allowed Kimo Swamin to get run going to turn one, made a perfectly clean pass, and he's now in second. But that's also allowed Darius Belowski to get a little bit of a lead ahead of these guys. They've kind of stretched out a little bit now with the lap car Stefan Overgaard, but I expect them to bunch up once again as Kimo Swamin is now in second, looking for that lead.
Interestingly, as we watch them lap Overgaard, he has a bit of damage on his front. Now, he's usually a front runner in this series, but right now it looks like he ran into some trouble that set him back very early on. We're only on lap 10, so I'm not sure what exactly happened. Bill, did you see?
No, I'm going to review right now and see if I can find out what's going on, because we lost James Stevenson.
Oh, well, that's definitely not good for James.
It looks like he has blown an engine or a transmission right on the main straightaway. He must have missed a shift.
Was that involved with Stefan Overgaard? Did he accidentally get into him, or was that connected some way?
I don't believe so. He's just as he's crossing the finish line. I think if he's using a shifter, maybe he went to third instead of fifth. It's hard to say.
Oh, just crushing for James Stevenson. Certainly had a lot more of a challenge. He was looking very good at Laguna Seca a few weeks ago, but obviously not going to be able to get a good finish today. And this could be 2 drop weeks for him already, if I understand. I can't remember where exactly he finished at Sebring, but we'll
he
have
had
to...
24 points in that one, so it looks like mid-pack. But this one's certainly going to be a dropped race.
Oof, yeah, definitely. So obviously the defending champion on the ST side struggling to try and get away some of these demons. It's looking a bit like Season 2 in this series, when he ran into a lot of bad luck over and over again. But there's still a lot of season yet to go, and now we're getting the traffic as we watch these cars, these GS cars, try to make their way through. Currently looking at Jason Lundy, who is followed by Nicholas Bailey, who's been having a fairly good season, good start, Ayrton, so far.
Yeah, Nicholas Bailey is having a really good race at the moment. Right now, he's behind Sean Vandergriff, and they've kind of been staying in the pack.
I'm sorry, we've got an accident. And a car on its lid. That's Stefan Overgaard. I'm not sure if we can get a replay on that.
It's like Pano Pasanen is the GS driver. He was sitting in 7th place, so he's having some bad luck.
Yeah, Overgaard got tapped by his Mustang.
Yeah, and we're watching that replay now, and it was turn 6 once again, and that was Pasanen actually, who T-bowed him. Actually, I'm trying to figure out who was that initiated that tap. That was
Jason
like
Bifogel. No, I think it was Jason Bifogel that got him.
Ah, yes, you're correct. That it was Jason Bifogel that started that off, but he's going to be able to continue on. I don't think Stefan Overgaard is going to be quite so lucky. He might be able to get that car repaired since it's pretty early, but man, this is a terrible start for him.
And Bifogel does have some substantial front-end damage on his car as well. I'm not sure if that will affect his top speed. There isn't that long straights on this track anyways, but definitely some significant damage there.
Well, we are going to hop to break real quick since we've got an opportunity with this caution that is out. We're going to let the marshals start to sort out the field. We'll come back in just a moment. Welcome back to Lime Rock Park. We are under our first caution for these 2 hours at Lime Rock Park at round 4 of the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, and that was after Stefan Overgaard was put on his lid after being tapped and then T-boned in turn 6. He is currently out of the race. Also out of the race is James Stevenson, and I believe we're going to try and pull him in here and see if he be willing to talk to us a bit about what happened so early on. Bill, can you talk to James here?
James, do you got me?
Yes, I've got you.
Okay, James, well, I got a couple questions for you. Let's start with what happened down the straightaway where I saw all the smoke coming out of the back of your car.
I grabbed the wrong gear and blew the engine.
5th to 3rd, is that what happened? Or going to 5th?
Yeah, grab 3rd instead of 5th.
Yeah, it looked that way. You know, that's too bad, but there are dropped races, so I'm sure we'll be able to. It won't be too crushing for your season. Let's talk about the opening laps. You started up on the front row, but did you just play it cautious, and that what's got you back there in traffic, or were you just were they outpacing you there?
It was just playing it a little bit cautious. It's hard to pass someone when they're directly behind somebody else getting a draft. So yeah, and when I did finally get a run on Amjad, he was blocking down the inside, so there wasn't really any chance. So I was just happy to sit there and just wait it out.
Well, final question, since I've been hearing a lot of chatter about the track being slick. Did you have that feeling, or was it okay for you?
Oh no, there's very little grip out there on the track. It's very hot track, hot air temperature, high humidity, so there's no grip anywhere.
So certainly tires are going to be an issue. You don't see people going fuel only whenever possible.
Tires still won't be an issue.
And it looks like we're going back to green flag racing. Sorry to interrupt, guys, but things are back on as Darius Bolowski leads them away with Kimo Suominen in hot pursuit and Patrick Bieri holding up 3rd. It looks like we're getting a bit of a checkup back there as everybody piles into turn 1, but things are single file. Things look good in the GS class, although we've got some side-by-side racing between Arthur Hermont and Alexis Molina, and they're able to get it sorted out. What is the ST looking like, Bill?
Well, it's still Giannis and Freitas, and thank you for Stevenson for stepping in there and giving us some information. Now, this is interesting. We said we were going to keep an eye on Thomas Dorp. He's up in 4th place right now. Here's what happened while he's gained these positions. Sergio Mora had an off on the grass, so he's farther back. And we have pit stops from Yaman and Richard Losper, so we're going to keep an eye on them. Losper and Yaman came in on lap 15, so we're going to see how that works out when the pit cycle gets a little screwy now. Back to you, Joe.
And it looks like Torp is actually in 3rd, sitting behind João Freitas in 2nd with Janis leading the way. But as you said, yeah, a couple guys did come into the pits between Richard Losper and Amjad Yaman. So definitely going to be an interesting one to see how that starts to play out if pit stops go under green for these guys. Once again, Jer is starting to gap the field just a little bit here, it looks like. So whatever it is, do you know if Jer really likes this circuit, Bill? Because I know you've...
I don't think so. I don't think he's particularly in love with it. You know, I always think Lime Rock is kind of like dating your wife. You know, it's not very exciting, but at least you know what to expect. I think maybe he's just I just don't know why he's so fast, to be honest with you. I would think Freitas would be faster than him here.
Well, he hasn't been able to make up the position quite yet. He's holding on, but there's still a gap between them as we see them go up the uphill and around turn 5 there. Everybody able to navigate it quite cleanly. Behind them, I do see Russell Clayson, who is usually in the Mustangs, but this season he has switched over to the ST class, and he is being run down by Sergio Mora as they come down that final quarter. And Clayson is one of those guys who, when he did run the STs some seasons ago, he was pretty fast, and it looks like he's proving his pace here today.
Yeah, you know, Joe, let me clarify. When I said it's like dating your wife, I meant it's like dating your own wife, not like dating your wife. I know you're a newlywed. Certainly dating your wife would be very exciting.
You must be very familiar with the taste of your foot there. But back to the racing action on the track. And we're getting word that a Fanador actually had an off. Let's hop over to him. Ayrton, did you see what happened?
Actually, right behind him, there's contact between Alexis Molina and I think that's Matthew Oak as well. They've both hit the wall entering turn 5. Both of them have started to continue on the track, but definitely significant damage and a lot of positions lost as they enter into the ST field.
Yeah, it looked like Molina just spun off him. No, I'm sorry, I was looking at Philip Carpenter, who was off the track. I did not see the accident, although we were watching the replay live. I unfortunately missed it. So we are going to continue on green. So guys are going to be able to keep on. Bad news for those drivers who were involved with it, which, as we said, was Alexis Molina, and I didn't see. It looks like Matthew Oak, as you said. Also, I see Philip Carpenter is far down the field as well and starting to move down the order. And that must have been because of his half spin that he had earlier on. So things are getting shuffled up, and it should be interesting because we do have a number of these ST cars on the same lap as some of these guys like Philip Carpenter, who's actually in the midst of all these ST cars, Ayrton's, and that's, if he's got faster pace than them, that's certainly going to be very interesting since they won't be getting blue flags when he comes up behind them.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a little bit of difficulty, especially for those two guys, Alexis Molina and Matthew Oak, that just dropped back. The initial cause, or the indirect cause of that accident, was probably German Fanador. He went off in turn 1 and dropped way back to about 13th position. He had to check up the field there, so I think that's what caused the initial contact there. And definitely, German Fanador, he doesn't have damage, but definitely lost a lot of positions since he was sitting in 5th place before.
Well, as he works his way through those ST cars, let's jump back up to the GS class because I'm looking at Patrick Berry, Kimo Suominen, and Darius Belowski up in the top 3 positions. They are very close together still and really just leaving the car of Jason Breifogel in 4th behind in the dust as we are on our 2nd stint after 1 caution so far. We are 21 laps into this thing, so we have we've got about an hour and 37 minutes left to go. Still a lot of race, but these guys obviously showing a lot of pace. And boy, Kimo Suominen, I know you were noticing that Darius was struggling a little bit, Ayrton. He is really putting the pressure on as we hop on board of Patrick Bieri.
Yeah, and what's really going to come down is during the end of these long stints, these guys, their tire wear is going to come into play. The guys who have been driving it a lot harder in the beginning of this race are really going to struggle quite a bit. And at the moment, Kimo Suominen, he's putting a lot of pressure on Darius, but I'm wondering if he's going to struggle later on in the stint, and maybe Patrick Bieri, who's just sitting behind collecting the draft of these guys, is going to have an advantage and try to make a pass.
Well, and the other thing to mention is that because of the difficulty in passing, it's going to slow those front 2 cars up if Kimo makes an attempt on track. So Bieri could be sitting pretty here if these guys start to tangle and slow each other down. He could get 2 spots in 1 if he's really clever.
Yeah, meanwhile, Kimo Suominen taking a look into turn 1, thinks a little bit better of it. He didn't have the biggest run, but Darius Belowski goes too hard into turn 1, loses the position, and he's also under threat from Patrick Bieri as well. Looks like he's going to defend that position, but a little mistake from Darius, and he's already lost it.
And that's just how on point you have to be in these cars. That's all it took, was just a little bit of a scare from Kimo looking on the inside. And Darius obviously not used to that sort of aggressiveness in this long of a race. Meanwhile, Patrick Bieri illustrating just how tough it is to pass on such a thin course. He could have had an opportunity, but he backed out of it, which probably was smart, Ayrton, considering if they tangle, it's there's a lot of positions for them to lose if getting together, especially in Big Bend.
Yeah, and now Kimo Suominen does have a nice little gap, so he has some air to breathe, while Darius Belowski has quite a bit of pressure from Patrick Bieri. So I'm wondering if Belowski will be able to catch back onto him, or if he's really going to struggle with the pressure from Bieri behind.
Boy, Suominen is looking very good. We're going to have to watch his pace. I'm wondering if he's going to continue to pull away like this. This could prove that even though Darius had the pole, Kimo possibly has the better race pace, which will be very advantageous to try and put a bit of gap between these guys, since I imagine they're really going to get slowed up by these ST cars when they start to catch them soon.
Yeah, and right behind them is also a really intense battle between Jason Breifogel and Vane Bork. These guys almost had a side-by-side action going into turn 6 earlier on, as Breifogel did have a mistake going up the hill, but Bork decided to back out of it, and that's caused a little bit of checkup, allowed some of the guys behind Sean Vandergriff and Nicholas Bailey to catch up, so there's a little bit of a train for that 5th place position.
And Breyfogle just missing the apex around 6 there. He's got a bit of damage on the front of his car as now it looks like Bork is quite close coming towards 1. Is he going to take a look? No, he decides to stay in line as they now hit the braking zone. But Breyfogle, obviously, I believe he was involved in Stefan Overgaard's incident earlier on, but I didn't think it was a tap on the front. But his grill, Ayrton, is looking just a little dented up there.
Yeah, that's probably going to affect his straight line speed a little bit. I was surprised that Bork did not get that big of a draft, but Breyfogle does have a small draft from Patrick Bieri ahead. They're about a second behind, so he does have that, so that's probably keeping him safe for now. But as the guys top 3 in front start to break away as he goes wide, and once again up that hill, he's really struggling up there. These guys are really going to struggle. As Nicholas Bailey actually goes off on turn 5, he's in the dirt at the moment trying to regain his footing, trying not to hit any cars while re-entering the track, but he's struggling at the moment.
And that was the corner that we mentioned earlier, the uphill that just sent him slightly off. And thankfully, he did not hit anything, but boy, he has lost a lot of spots. He was 7th this time, or last time by, and now he is sitting, and let's see, it looks like 12th position, or no, 13th position. So 6 spots lost just from that one off. That is a lot of spots.
And that's exactly what we saw with German and Fanador earlier on. So these guys, they really got to worry about their mistakes, because any mistake costs them so many positions, especially on such a small track like this.
Meanwhile, let's hop over to the ST. Bill, it sounds like you got some information about Jair Janis.
Well, this is interesting. Janis has been leading Freitas and Torp. Now, what is the fly in the ointment here is the Mustang driver of Matthew Oakey. He's making his way up through the field, and he's really caused Freitas to lose connection with Janis because he just kind of let me in there. So we're going to see how much he's going to. Right now, the Mustang driver's on his way up to the R class leader, and it'll be interesting to see how quickly Janis can let him by so that Freitas doesn't get back on his bumper again.
I think it's also worth noting that looking back at Amjad Yaman is currently sitting in 5th place. Now, he was one of the drivers that took his pit stops, Bill, and he's already made up a lot of positions, it looks like. So has Richard Losper, who's still sitting behind him in 6th, but quite a ways back. So these guys obviously not being held up too much by these slower cars.
Well, you know, they did it on the lap 15 under yellow, so they really got the pit stop for free. Really, what did they lose? Track position, maybe 5 or 6 spots in the class. So yeah, they made short work of that, and they're back up there now. So it'll be interesting to see if this goes green. It's really going to work out well for them.
And I'm watching John Ehlers, who is very much struggling, and he is just in front of our leader in the ST class. He was barely making his way through turn 4, a car wobbling all over the place, taking it slowly through the uphill. And I think Janis is going to be getting past Ehlers if this continues with his pace in that GS car.
Well, he's sandwiched between 2 Mustangs now because Oakey wants to get by as well. So Janis is faster than...
We might have lost Bill for just a second. Yeah, it looks like he might be faster than John Ehlers. Matthew Oak is faster than Jair Janis and now makes his way past, although now he might hold him up just a little bit through these twisty bits, since the Mustangs are just slightly slower than these ST cars through the corners. We'll have to see how they compare. Right now, he seems to be doing okay, not really holding him up too much, but that gap between João Freitas and Jair Janis is not as big as it used to be.
You know, the 2-class racing is really interesting because you...
I think we lost Bill again for just a second there.
I'm sorry, my back. They're leading in their class, but they still have to get out of the ways of the faster class. It's really interesting to watch.
Yes, and it looks like as we watch, let's hop up to Matthew Oak, who's trying to get by John Ehlers. This should be an interesting battle here between these two guys, since Oak is definitely faster than him. And now it looks like Ehlers is just going to move over, or is he actually defending? No, I think he's lifting, so he's just going to let him by. He knows that this is a fight that he should not probably fight right now, as Oak is trying to make up for lost time and work his way up. Oak currently sitting in 17th position and ready to try and chase down Alex Brown. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
But Joe, I wonder if he's going to have that attitude when Janis gets up behind him.
It's a good one that I would love to see. And Giannis, it seems to be a bit of a yo-yo. See, that's the problem with being a slower car in the faster class, because these GS cars have better acceleration, more top end down these straightaways. So he's going to keep pulling away, but in the corners, Janice is going to pull him in. So he's really not got a good place that he can try and like outbrake him or out accelerate him. He's just going to keep pulling him in a place where he can't pass. And I understand that it looks like Thomas Torp is now ahead of João Freitas, so second position has switched, Bill.
Yeah, it looks like, I'm looking at it right now, it looks like Freitas just got wide on him. Looks like it might have been the final turn, or maybe the uphill section. I can't tell from my chopper view. I wish I could. But yeah, we talked about Torp being an underachiever. Well, come on, he's running second now.
It's looking good, though. There's still a lot of race left to go. We've got an hour and 28 minutes, so we're only a quarter way through this thing. We still have pit stops left to go for most of the field. After our first caution, we have been caution-free, knocking on that wood there, Ayrton. And it looks like, we usually get about, 45 minutes to an hour for both of these classes. So these guys should be looking at a pit stop at least in the next 10 to 20 minutes, I would assume.
Yeah, they should be looking pretty soon. They could save a little bit of fuel from that first caution, but as you said, we haven't had that many cautions, so it shouldn't be too much of a factor. But just going on the GS positions, Kimo Suominen is almost 3.5 seconds of Dariusz Belowski at the moment, so he's pulled a huge gap with the combination of pace and traffic managing, so he's doing a really good job at the moment. And there's also a really intense battle between Wayne Bork and Jason Breifogel for that fourth place position, with Sean Vandergriff just sitting behind. It looks like Wayne Bork is really eager to get ahead of Jason Breifogel, who's struggling with that damage, but just quite can't get that move going, because he just can't get those runs out of those corners to get alongside him.
Obviously, Breifogel really implementing that old driver's adage, slow in, fast out, and keeping himself away from the attack of Bork. Although he goes very wide through Big Bend, now he's able to really chop back in and try and apex that corner. He misses it slightly, trying to hit that last curve, which should give you the apex, and this has allowed Bork to really get up behind him, and this could be an opportunity. He is now right on there, but a bobble as they come onto the no-name straight is going to make it not an option, and they are coming up on the lapped car of Matthew Reinhold, and they're going to go around the outside up into the uphill, and Breifogel is trying to keep it out of the wall, and they both managed to get by, but hairy moments, and this has allowed Sean Vandergriff to get right up on them as they come through six now, Ayrton.
And these guys are not far from Patrick Ghieri either. They're only about 2 seconds ahead of those behind those guys. So if those guys start to slow down or battle, that will allow it. It'll probably become about a 5-car pack. So these guys are all very close at the moment, really having some good fighting going.
And this is what Sean Vandergriff has been wanting in that and black car, trying to hunt down these two guys in front of him, Wayne C. Burke in the blue and white, and Jason Breifogel in the black and red car up there in front of all three of them there. So these guys have now, and I noticed that everybody really gets close together in that left-hander, and then things start to separate. But now Vandergriff is starting to drift back a little, so obviously not able to keep up with these guys quite as much. I think Wayne C. Burke is very much being held up by Jason Breifogel here. He keeps getting right on top of him, and then they get to the fast parts and just can't quite keep up, can't get the exits that he needs. This time, though, as they come through six, he's holding on. Let's see if he can get a better exit out of the final corner.
It looks like he had a good run from the penultimate corner. It looks like he actually has a really good run right now, especially with Jason Breifogel's top speed loss from his damage. It should give him a chance. He goes to the inside, go across the start-finish line. Sean Vandergriff is closing up as well as they go side by side into turn one. Bork has the inside, and now Vandergriff also goes on the inside as well. Jason Breifogel is going to possibly lose 2 positions. Yes, he does. He loses 2 positions in that first corner.
Oof, that is a blow to him. You know, he can still live on to fight another day if he can hold on to these guys. We'll have to see, because Vandergriff was not able to keep up quite on the back of them earlier, so maybe he can just hold on to Vandergriff and look for an opportunity maybe in the pits, or if one of them makes a mistake. But as you said, 2 spots down in a single corner for poor Jason Breifogel. Let's hop over to some of these other battles going on as I look around the track. Oh, Amjad Yaman is turned around.
He lost it coming out of the last corner. He's parked in the middle of the straightaway.
And we're looking at the replay right now as we saw just the end of it now. Now we're going back in time, as you said, coming down that final corner. Must have drifted just a little bit wide. Yeah, he took a lot of curb through there. Oh, and it was the curb on the inside that really upset his car and did it looks like a more than a 270. And thankfully, everybody really kept out of him there. But how many positions did that lose, poor Amjad?
Yeah, he had worked his way up to 5th position. I was just about to comment that things were really going to fall into place for him. He had worked his way up, and then he threw it all away with that 270, 360, 480, whatever it was.
720, I think, is
double gainer, with the twist.
I think that's what I meant earlier on. Pulled a bit of a Murray Walker there, but man, Bill, it's seeming like keeping the mistakes away are going to be critical, because we've seen a couple guys who are looking at possibly good results just pull minor mistakes that are costing them dearly.
Well, Joe, I got something, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong about this. I've been watching Giannis. He has tucked himself in behind the faster Mustang of John Ellers. Now, I think Giannis is making up time by getting a draft from even though he's losing time down the straightaway, he gets close, and I think he gets a toe every lap. He is distancing himself. He's putting distance between him and Freitas, and Freitas did get around Torp, by the way, for second. So if I can step the MX-5 field real quick, it's Giannis in front, Freitas and Torp in second and third, and Sergio Mora in fourth. And then you got the first guy to pit, Richard Losper. Now, it used to be Yaman, but Losper is sitting back there. He's well back, but he'll make that up when they go into the pits.
Absolutely, and we'll have to wait and see if this pit call is going to work out for Richard Losper, who is currently being lapped by Wayne C. Burke and Sean Vandergriff, who's going by him in the very fast final corner, and that had to have scared him a little bit. Now he's got Jason Breifogel whipping on by. But I was going to say, we were talking a little bit earlier. Now, I used to race with Richard quite a bit. We were about similar pace when we both ran in this series, and he used to always comment that how I always came out ahead of him on the pit strategy. But I think if this works out for him, this could be a turnaround for Richard Losper if his pit strategy is finally on point and maybe taking up positions if things stay green, or even if things go to yellow and everybody else battles. But Amjad Yaman just behind him is trying to get a spot from Arthur Chan in 6th place.
Well, who's going to pit first between the two classes? To the Mustang, or is it going to be the Mazdas that pit first?
You know, I actually don't know. It's Ayrton. I'm not sure if you could have a call on that. As actually, Amjad Yaman is taking a look on the inside, coming into 6th, and he's got this as Arthur lets him have the apex, and it looks like he's going to have it. And they've got a Mustang behind them who's going to want by, and they're having to check up as they watch these guys battle it out. Now Amjad is able to streak away as Elliot Huffman has a whole train of German Afanador, Dual-Jean Boldrin, and who else is that? It looks like Elliot Huffman and Brendan McIntyre actually all behind them. Now German tries to look on the inside of Elliot Huffman and almost touches Arthur Chan, and it looks like they're able to get through there with just a slight bit of contact. Arthur Chan gets very close to who is that behind him, Dual-Jean Boldrin, who's trying to find his way around. Everybody's just got a bit of a traffic jam. Cool heads are starting to prevail as they get everybody sorted out, and now Brendan McIntyre is finally going to be able to try and get by Amjad Yaman as everybody was really getting checked up for a moment. But Amjad, interestingly, even with all this going on, is running down Richard Losper.
Yeah, well, he's been faster. He's been really fast. He made that pit stop, and he made up a lot of time. You know, it's interesting watching that Chan incident back there. It was one of those things that I talked about in the pre-race show where you want the apex. Chan went one car by with 2-second Mustang.
And unfortunately, Bill seems to have a bit of a connection problem with the push to talk button. In the meantime, it looks like João Freitas has repassed Thomas Torps. Now, João Freitas is into 2nd place, trying to run down Georgianis. And it looks like, Ayrton, it sounds like we've got at least one of the GS cars has pitted.
Well, Nicholas Bailey did pit, but he's put himself a lap down, and he was running pretty far back. He did have that off earlier on, so I'm wondering if he had some damage and wanted to pit earlier on, but if not, I think this might be the start for the pit cycle for the Mustangs.
You know, that's interesting that he actually went a lap down. It's something that I hadn't really thought about in a while with Lime Rock Park. is that it's almost oval rules with the pit stops, because if you pit and you get caught out by that yellow, you could easily go a lap down since the laps are so short around here. So it might be a disadvantage to pit early under green. Maybe you want to just wait as long as you can to hope to try and get those cautions.
Well, I think, just to butt in, I think that's one of the things that one of the advantages that Yaman and Losper may have with an early pit stop in the Mazda class. They didn't lose any time. Now, if these guys pit in front of them, they're going to make up a ton of time, maybe even a whole lap.
Meanwhile, on screen, we're looking at Nicholas Bailey, currently sitting in the 19th position, trying to hunt down John Ellers, who I'm pretty sure he has much better pace than, as Bailey qualified in 9th place and Ellers was in dead last. He's being very patient at the moment. I think he's going to get an opportunity into one here, Ayrton.
Yep, looks like he's going to get a run. I would expect that he'll go to the inside. Just to note that, as you said, as it kind of correlates to oval rules when it comes to this track, that's if one of the drivers pits and then a caution comes out right after, that gives an advantage to all the other drivers behind him, because then he's a lap down and he actually has to wait until everyone else is pitted before he can gain that lap again. So these guys have to be careful. Some of them may be waiting for a caution before they pit, or some might risk pitting and then a caution coming out. So it's really going to rely on luck.
We are 43 minutes into the race right now, so it is definitely getting to be the first pit window of this 2-pit cycle that we're going to see today, most likely, unless we get a lot of cautions really soon here. And as you saw on your screen, Nicholas Bailey did work his way past John Ellers to move himself into the 18th position. So trying to make up after that early mistake that cost him so much, Ayrton.
Yeah, and we saw that also German Afanador, he had that early mistake as well. He's back up to 10th place after falling down to 13th or 14th earlier on. So he's struggling a little bit to catch back up, but as we know that the field, the skill level in this field is quite intense, and dealing with this traffic is really difficult, as we've mentioned multiple times. But we do have some really good battles going on as these GS drivers are coming through traffic. It's splitting up a little bit, but Darius Pulaski and Patrick Vieri are still very close together.
And right now we're riding on with John Ellers, who has 2 cars very much trying to get by, and that is Sean Vandergrift and Wayne C. Burke. And it looks like Vandergrift was trying to get an opportunity, but unfortunately Ellers acted as a pick, and Wade C. Burke was able to hold on as we see a ST car actually go off in front of them, but able to keep the car going. That was the car of David Waymond, I believe, actually, who is also a lap down on the field. So and he's actually staying to the left here, as now we've got a few cars trying to go by, and that is Nicholas Bailey actually 3 wide down the front stretches. Thomas Torp is also lapping him, and this has allowed, who is that? That is Wayne C. Burke to try and catch up to Nicholas Bailey.
Right behind him, Sean Vandergrift, he gets a little loose while checking up for Thomas Torp. He half spun, went into the grass, now he's under threat from Jason Breifogel.
Breifogel in 6th place trying to get, oh, and there's side-by-side contact, but we've also got Darius Belowski off as Jason Breifogel loses more positions. And Darius Belowski, what exactly happened there, Ayrton?
It looks like he just got loose coming out of turn 2, and yeah, he just got some tire spin on the exit of turn 2, and he went off into the grass. He didn't hit the wall, luckily, but lost a lot of time, a couple positions there.
We could see it on the replay. It's very close to those tire barriers, but able to keep it going. And we're going to see how many positions he lost here. He's definitely behind Patrick Vieri and Wayne C. Burke. So I believe he's, and Sean Vandergrift. So it looks like, oh, I'm sorry, he is in front of Sean Vandergrift. So Darius Belowski is sitting in 4th position right now, Ayrton. And but definitely a costly mistake. Like I was saying before, it seems like it's going to go to the guy who can keep those mistakes at bay.
And meanwhile, that seems to be Kimmo Suominen, as he has about an 8-second lead over Patrick Vieri. So he's definitely running away with this one. His lap times have been extremely consistent. He was running only a couple tenths off qualifying pace consistently. So his pace has really shown, and been managing that traffic, as we said before. And his being a veteran of the series is really helping him.
Yeah, in fact, now we can finally call him a veteran of sorts. This is only his 2nd season. He won in his rookie year last time, and in dominant fashion dethroning the previous dominant driver, which was Dan Rash. So Kimo Sawamanen obviously really owning this series at the moment. But Patrick Bieri, we have to remember, is leading the points right now and sitting in second, even though Kimo Sawamanen is going to close the gap. I believe Patrick is still going to be in the lead of the points if he can hold on to this. But there is a long race yet to go. Still an hour and 14 minutes left on the clock. And keep in mind, even though Kimo Sawamanen has built a gap up, and we've got a spinning ST car, and that is Hang Ho Tao up at the top of the hill. And it looks like he hasn't hit anything at all. We're going to watch the replay of that. He just lost a little bit, just lost that grip. You can see there oh no, he did hit something. Absolutely smashed into that Armco barrier. And he's moving very slow as, whoa, almost gets hit by Sean Vandergriff. And then, actually, I think he might have gotten hit there. Oh, it was extremely close between himself and Jason Breifogel. Inches between those cars. I'm not sure if we can watch a replay of that as well, but he just pulled the car off the track, and I believe he is going to get a tow as he's pulled it into a gap.
And that was his lap as well. He just did his pit stop, so maybe he got new tires, and those cold tires, he just wasn't ready for them and was overdriving the car, and that's what caused the accident.
And he got permission to get that tow. So Hang Ho Tao obviously bringing the ire out of a few of these drivers, as now Jason Breifogel has Jason Lundy right behind him with a very close moment earlier on in turn 6. So things are very much hotting up. And I was just about to say, with that 8-second lead for Kimo Sawamanen, it can very much go away if all we get is a caution. And that is not out of the question in these tight confines.
Yeah, and as Bill mentioned earlier, these walls are extremely close, so it's very easy for a car to hit the wall and end up back on the track and not able to move due to significant damage. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. We haven't seen any major, we did see Stefan Overgaard on his roof, but besides that, we haven't seen any major accidents.
Yeah, we'd hope that a car on its roof counts as a major accident, but it looks like things are starting to spread out up at the top of this ST field. I imagine the traffic is coming into play with that, Bill, is it not?
Well, what was interesting to watch the Mustang leaders make their way through, they've all made their way through, so now Yuri Yanis is literally a lap down to the other class leader. But Mora got around Torp because of traffic when the Mustangs came through. Torp, we saw it on replay there where he got in trouble. Mora has made his way through. Now, I'm telling you guys, the guy to watch out for is Amjad Yaman. He is pacing really fast. He's putting in great lap times equal to what Yuri Yanis is running. And he's just on a different pit strategy. But remember, he looped it, and he's still making up time.
I wonder if we're going to see a spin to win here, with this being the month of May. Amjad Yaman doing his own version here at the short little course of Lime Rock Park. He's currently sitting behind David Whamond, he is about to put a lap down, Bill.
You know, Yaman's wasn't as pretty as Danny Sullivan's, but it'll still count.
I don't think anything can touch Danny Sullivan doing that at the Indy 500 some years ago. But meanwhile, Amjad Yaman is neatly putting to bed David Whamond as he puts him yet another lap down. Oh, and we've got a car off. That looks like Philip Carpenter in turn 2. And let's see if we can pull a replay up of that as we're pulling it up now. And it looks like he was just being passed by Arthur Hermont, or lapped possibly. Yes, he was being lapped, and he just lost control out of that first corner there, Ayrton.
Yeah, it looks like he just got his rear tire on the dirt, and we've seen that in turn 1. That's exactly what happened to German and Fanador earlier in the race. So when that happens, you can either go wide and lose a lot of positions going into the grass, or risk having to spin, which is exactly what he had right there. So he didn't manage to hit anyone or receive any damage from the wall, but definitely lost him some time.
See, now I can't speak for what's going on in the Mustang class, but I know Yuri Yanis and Freitas is saying, throw the yellow, guys.
Yeah, pretty much. With that touch of the grass, Aaron, it almost reminds me of turn 2 at Mosport. You can't say that there's no coming back from it, because I have seen guys, and I know myself, have been able to save it in both corners. But it's very difficult, and it's very dangerous to put a wheel off into the dirt on the outside of that corner.
Yeah, I've never thought about it, but those turns are actually very similar. You're carrying a lot of speed in this corner, and just hitting that grass, you lose grip, even if it's just one tire. And that can definitely I noticed on most sports, more going off into the dirt. At Lime Rock, you can spin it, like we saw with Carpenter there, but we did see German Fanador do the same exact thing as we usually see at Moss Sport, going really wide on entry to turn 1 just by hitting that grass. As we do have a spin going on. I think Jason Breifogel had an accident in turn 5. He's hit the wall.
I'm not sure if we can get a replay from that. It looks like that was a while ago. You're right, he did spin, and that was actually contact with Jason Lundy, interestingly, as Lundy got a nose in and basically took the position with the chrome horn. So Lundy probably is not going to be making friends with that one, especially with contact with the wall for poor Jason Breifogel, as we're watching him get going on that replay. And now we're jumping back just a little bit further. We're going to see that contact. Yeah, they had Sean Vandergrift just ahead of them, so there was a few guys involved with that, as Vandergrift had possibly slowed them up. And just a bit of a tap on the rear bumper, so not too much damage there for poor Jason Breifogel, but this has not been his race, Ayrton.
Yeah, but just going back to live, Darius Pulowski just made a move on Wayne Bork going into turn 1 for that 3rd place position, so he's starting to climb back up again. A really clean move by him. Went a little bit wide into turn 2, but managed to hold it together, and now he's back into 3rd place.
And we're pulling up a replay of that move. Now we can see him just slide up the inside there, and under braking neatly takes the spot. Although it looks like, oh no, I was going to say I thought he fought back a little bit, but Wayne C. Bork was not able to do anything there, as he is now demoted another position into 4th and off the podium. So Belowski obviously trying to make up time for that mistake that he made earlier on, as are a few top-tier drivers. So, but ahead of it all, let's go through the top 3 in each class real quick. Kimmo Suominen still leading in the GS class. Patrick Bieri 8 seconds back, sitting in 2nd. Darius Pulowski now has moved himself into 3rd after a spin earlier on. Meanwhile, in ST, Jared Janis has quite a lead back to João Freitas sitting in 2nd, with Sergio Mora not too far behind in 3rd, Bill. So maybe Sergio, I'm going to knock on wood here, has started to get some of those demons at bay.
Well, Joe and Ayrton, help me out here. I'm looking at my clock. I see 56 minutes gone by. Are we not close to halfway? I mean, the pit stops have got to be pretty soon. So if we're looking at 2 pit stops, we're looking at a just to keep it simple, a full fill and then a splash and go. If this were to go green the rest of the way, wouldn't the drivers who have already made their pit stop under yellow have the advantage? And again, I'm going back to Yaman and Losper. In theory, the guys ahead of them still have to make 2 pit stops. Losper and Yaman only have to make 1, right?
In theory, and that's, there's the rub in these endurance races, because fuel plays such a factor, especially with cautions. So, I'd have to do some mental math, and I'm not sure that that's really my strong suit. So, obviously they'll need at least everybody needs at least 1 more pit stop. I will say that. But if these guys are going to try and stretch it, we have an hour and 5 minutes to go.
Kimmo's going in right now.
Kimmo Suominen. And we're getting word that Arthur Chan had an accident. We're seeing that on our screen. Now we're going to pull up the replay.
It looks like that. Right in front of pit entrance, so he's going to pull right in and get his pit and repair all done in one shot.
We've all done that before. Just spin it right in that final corner and just pull it right in with the crew, virtual crew, since there isn't actually a crew there, watching as you had put up all kinds of smoke and dirt right before you came in, and bring them a nice damaged and bent up car. Poor Arthur Chan now getting his pit stop done. Meanwhile, we're watching Patrick Bieri. So as we said, pit stops are starting to take place. If Kimmo could only make it to about 55 minutes into this, there is definitely a second stop going to have to happen, unless we get at least 1 or 2 more cautions. I don't think 1 more caution is going to do it for these guys, though.
Yeah, and even if 1 more caution does come out, those guys who pitted earlier, as you said, Amjad Yaman and Richard Losper, they already pitted, and they already have more fuel in their cars than these guys. So even when they do have their pit stop, whether it's under caution or during green flag racing, they're going to have less fuel to fill up in their tank. So they technically are going to have a faster pit stop. Probably it's going to help them on track position as well.
So the other interesting thing with all the cautions, though, potential cautions, is that when they come, if it comes with 45 minutes left, then it's kind of an even playing field because those guys who are going long now will be able to pit at the same time as those guys that pitted early. So things will still be close between these guys. It all depends on if we get another caution and when it's going to be. But Kimmo Suominen has taken his under green. He's currently sitting in 10th, and he is still on the lead lap, what I'm seeing. Patrick Bieri has not taken his stop, interestingly. He is currently the lead car, and he continues on by. Darius Belowski is behind him. Is Darius going to come in? Let's wait and see here. No, Darius Belowski also stays out, and Jason Lundy is currently the car sitting in 3rd. He is going to stay out as well. So, Kimmo Suominen seems to be pitting just slightly earlier than the rest of these guys, Ayrton, and they might be able to stretch it to a single stopper. It's going to be very close, though.
The only other driver who was in the top 10 was Wayne Bork, who also pitted. So he is about 15 seconds behind Kimmo Suominen as well. So he didn't gain any time in that pit stop, but I am looking. German Aventador is in pits at the moment, and I think he's the only one now. But a lot of these guys are definitely stretching it a little longer.
And we also are getting word that Kimmo had a rather slow stop. I don't have the time on that. But it looks like that could come into play if we continue to get green flag stops, since he had about 8 seconds, so he might lose some time, but I'm not sure that he'd lose the lead unless he runs into a lot of traffic along the way. We're seeing some other guys stop in. You said German Aventador, who is just exiting, and just beside our leader, Patrick Bieri. So German Aventador is going to go a lap down as Bieri continues on without taking his stop. Matthew Oak also stopped in and has gone a lap down. And it looks like I see that Jason Breifel was actually battling with Jeff Jacobs right now, and that is currently for the 12th and 11th positions.
And these guys are a lap down from the leaders actually just got passed. And behind them is also Nicholas Bailey. So Nicholas Bailey trying to make somewhat of a comeback from his earlier accident, and he also was also pitted a lot earlier than these guys as well. So he's definitely going to have to make another stop, whether there are another 2 cautions or not. So I'm curious to see how his strategy will turn out in the end. At the moment, we still have no other drivers. Actually, we do have Brendan McIntyre, who just came out of pits.
Now, Patrick Bieri is into the pits, and Darius Belowski is also in, actually, so I was correct when I first started speaking. Mouth is catching up to the brain. So it looks like these guys are now finally employing their stops, but we are an hour and 2 minutes left to go. So they aren't quite halfway, and that is with a caution. So it is definitely going to take at least 2 more for these guys to make it all the way. Jason Lundy has stayed out, and Sean Vandergriff have stayed out. If these guys can make it to the halfway point, we've got 1 more minute until that. They will need a caution to be able to stretch it the entire way. I really don't think, unless we start getting a lot more cautions, that these guys are going to be able to make it on a one-stopper, though it looks, Aaron, like a few of them are going to try and bank on it and roll the dice.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Kimmo Suominen ends up with a gigantic lead ahead of Patrick Bieri, who was in second before the pit stops went underway. But also just to note that Wayne C. Burke, he is... Actually, he came out in front of Darius Belowski after those pit stops, so he managed to gain some positions through the pit stop cycle.
Now, we haven't touched on the ST pit stops, though. Bill, has anybody else stopped in? Because those guys seem to be going longer if nobody else has been making theirs.
More is coming in right now. Now, we had that yellow flag, but it wasn't a long yellow. I'm thinking he makes his fit. He fills it up all the way to the top. He hopes for a yellow, and he's doing this. This is his last pit stop. Now, if it goes green from here, maybe he can't go all the way. So maybe it's a 2-stop race. But for Yaman and Lasper, it's definitely 1 more stop for them. They're going to be safe no matter what. 1 stop gets them there. So if it's if this thing goes green all the way, I think Yaman and Lasper are going to be the beneficiaries.
It's certainly looking that way as Jared Janis continues on. We're currently looking at Jason Breifogel on the screen, though, is sitting in the 11th position and trying to hunt down Dualjon Boldrin, although it looked like Jason was going quite wide through that corner as he was getting around Richard Losper.
Joe,
And,
let me interrupt. Freitas is in the pits right now. Or, I'm sorry, Giannis is in the pits right now. So let's go ahead and keep an eye and see if Giannis can get out ahead of Mora, who was just maybe 3 or 4 seconds behind him.
Yes, this will be interesting. And we're getting some word on someone else having pitted in the GS class.
Yep, Sean Vandergriff and Jason Lundy have both pitted, and that puts Kimmo Suominen back into the lead.
Interestingly, since the gap wasn't terribly huge in the ST class, João Freitas did get to lead that lap, and you get bonus points for leading the lap, so João Freitas is going to get that little extra bit of points there. Amjad Yaman, interestingly, this shuffles him up into second now with how things are working out, and Richard Losper into third. So it's starting to come to fruition here, Bill.
Horrible stop for Giannis. Mora has paced him by good 3 or 4 seconds.
And now João Freitas is coming in for his pit, are past the halfway point. It's still going to be very touch and go for these guys in the ST class as to if anybody can make it on that single stopper. Amjad Yaman is coming around since he made his stop earlier on in the race about, I believe that caution was about 20 minutes into the race or so. So he is definitely going to be able to go a little bit ways longer. But where is João Freitas and where is our other guys of Sergio Mora? Mora is coming onto the front stretch right now, and he's actually just going by what looks like a rather slow Richard Losper, interestingly.
Yeah, Mora is down this right now, and has Freitas left his pits yet?
I'm sorry, Richard Losper had some trouble. He was off track and had to travel through the grass, but was able to keep it out of the wall, thankfully.
Okay. Let me this for the guys in the Mazda class here. Oh, go ahead.
And we're watching that replay, and you see that once again that uphill corner, Bill, is just catching a number of guys out. That grip that is really struggling around this course is making some of these fast corners very, very difficult and tricky, it seems.
Maybe Mora short pitted, but he has made up a ton of time on the pit lane in his ass. He's jumped Freitas and Giannis. Now he's going to be behind Yaman, who have made that pit earlier. But it's going to be interesting to see. I'll keep an eye on this, figure it out. But Mora made up a ton of time on the two guys he was racing with.
And here's an interesting thing. I know you were saying he could be risking by just filling it all the way up and seeing it how far he could go, or he could have just be taking, like you said, since he had a very fast pit, he could be taking a short stint in the middle here, and just getting a splash and dash, or I'm sorry, just filling up a little bit in that second one.
Now, this is interesting. Losper's in the pit again. Do you think he had damage from his incident?
It's possible. I did hear him chatter on the radio a little bit saying that he might pit for tires. He has been going for a little while, although not as long as some of these other guys. Although I'm not sure if he took tires in that first stop, so his tires could be pretty worn by this point. And I think it was just a tire stop for him.
Okay, well, when this all settles down, Amjad Yaman's going to be your leader in the Mazda class, but he's going to have to pit in the next 15 to 20 minutes.
Yes, and we'll have to wait and see if his rivals will have to pit. We've got 55 minutes left to go. We know these guys can go close to an hour with a caution, but we're not entirely sure how far they can go under green. And we've been green since that very first caution in the first quarter of this race. So it's looking like if things continue to spread out and racing continues to be good, we could potentially have a single caution race, and it could be a huge roll of the dice for some of these guys who have stretched out their pit stop to this halfway point as we watch Amjad Yaman come around to try and complete lap 62.
I know in the drivers' meeting when they started, the series managers were saying, you know, if you put it in the wall, try to limp it back into the pits. We don't want to throw more yellows than we have to. So they're really going to try not to have yellows unless we have a car in horrible position, like upside down.
Which we have seen today. So out of the question once again. As things have cycled through, let's go through the top 5 of each class. Ayrton, what is it looking like over in GS?
Well, Kimmo Suominen still being quite dominant. He has a 12-second lead for Patrick Vieri in second. Behind him is Wayne Bork, who through the pit cycle has managed to get himself back up to third, but not far behind is Darius Belowski in fourth. Then Brendan McIntyre, who we haven't seen much of, but he's back in fifth place position. Then in sixth, Sean Vandergrift. Seventh, Jason Lundry. German Fanador in eighth, Elliot Huffman in ninth, and Doljon Boldrin in 10th.
And what's our top 10 looking like in the ST?
Okay, we have Amjad Yaman in the lead, but we know he's going to pit soon. Sergio Mora had that great pit stop to jump him into second place ahead of Giannis in third and Freitas in fourth. Thomas Torp quietly running in fifth place, having a good race. Richard Losper has taken 2 pit stops. He's running in sixth. Arthur Chan in seventh. Matthew Reinhold in eighth. And David Wamman in ninth. And wrapping up the top 10 is Hang Ho Tao.
And we understand that Kimo Swamanen had an off in turn 1. Ayrton, what happened?
He just went a little too deep into turn 1, caught in the grass, and as we said beforehand, just went quite wide. He's lost about, I would say, about 6 seconds now, so Patrick Vieri has managed to close in a little bit on that lead, but still has a quite substantial lead over him.
Yeah, we just watched the replay. The car started to slide, interestingly. After his recent pit stop, that surprises me that he had that sort of trouble through there. But, Bill, it sounds like you might have some information here on Yaman.
Yeah, he just made a pit stop. Sorry, my text might have been a little screwy there. Yeah, he's made a pit stop, and he's going to cycle out. If I can see where he's going to cycle out in front of here. It looks like it's going to be ahead of Thomas Torp, so he's going to cycle out into third place. Now, certainly he can go the distance from here. So the question is now, can the guys in front of him, Mora, Giannis, and Freitas, go the distance without making a stop?
Thankfully, Bill, after a year and a half, I'm fluent in Zon-Ease, so I think I interpreted it correctly. See, exactly. So, things are playing out. Now, where did Yaman come out, actually? I'm sorry if you said that already. I didn't. Fourth place. So
just ahead of Thomas Torp. So it's Mora and Giannis and Freitas. And again, do they have to pit? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, and he's sitting pretty regardless, because if these guys don't have to pit, if they're trying to make it a single stopper, they can't run quite as fast a pace as Amjad Yaman. So he should be able to outgun them for the rest of it, no matter what, since he should be able to make it to the end.
Now, he didn't take tires on his pit stop.
Yes, but we have seen that these MX-5s do like warm tires, so they might be a little bit worn out. But
I got to correct myself, Joe. He did take tires. He took left sides.
All right, man, caution.
And we've got a caution.
Turn 3. Big spin in turn 4. That was James Alex Brown. He spun right in front of Wayne Bork and Darius Belowski. I'm not sure if that's actually the cause of caution, since he did not have any damage and was able to come off the track. But that's the only thing I could see.
It looks like he was, as we're watching the replay now, as he comes up towards, and you can see he just spun it, and he was in the middle of the track, stopped. So I think that was possibly a smart move, as a bunch of cars had to take evasive action to try and avoid him. And thankfully, I don't think anybody got into the wall in that one. So now this is very interesting, because we have 50 minutes left. So if some of these guys that just made their first stop, they could stop now and just make it to the end, I believe. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back in just a moment, and we'll fill you in on what the pit stops look like, who comes in, and who decides to risk it.